Hi guys, and welcome to another 7-minute lecture. We will be looking at the International Criminal Court today. So the ICC is the predominant intergovernmental body that is in charge of investigating and prosecuting large-scale international crimes like genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, right? It's a sort of a tribunal, if you will. It was uh, opened up in the year 2002, and it's based on a multilateral treaty that was signed in 1998 called the Rome Statute. And as of today, that Rome Statute has over 120 countries that have signed on board. So this is without a doubt the predominant criminal court in the world. It's located in The Hague in the Netherlands. So when this was created, there was already a lot of debate and discussion over whether the world needed an international criminal court. And clearly the powers that be decided that we did. This is logical because if you think about it, the world order that we live in now, the post-World War II world order that we live in, is what in international relations theory we would call a liberal world order, in the sense that it believes more in working together and globalism than it does in sovereignty and nationalism. And therefore it was simply a matter of time before an international criminal court came up, and it eventually did. It's a pretty young organization though, if you think about it, because even by the standards of our present global system, which is only about 70 or 80 years old, this is not even 20 years old yet, because it began in 2002. So it's still a child in many senses. But even in this short lifespan so far, the ICC has already managed to garner a lot of criticism, the most devastating of which is the charge of racial bias. And to be fair, this accusation, one can totally empathize with this accusation, because if you look at the way that the ICC has conducted itself over the last 20 years, it would be very difficult for most people to come to a different conclusion. The ICC has about 44 indictments so far. About 9 people have been convicted. All 9 are African leaders and political and military figures. Until 2016, the International Criminal Court did not launch a single investigation into a non-African country. It was only in 2016 that they finally began an investigation into what happened in Georgia, and since then they've launched investigations into Afghanistan and Myanmar as well. But as of 5 years ago, the ICC functioned strictly as a body which was bludgeoning African dictators and small African countries over the head for the crimes that were being committed there. Now, of course, this does not mean that the people there should not be held accountable. This does not mean that the atrocities that happen on the African continent and in smaller African countries must go unpunished. No, I certainly do not mean that. But surely a credible international institution that claims to be a criminal court, a global criminal court, must be more consistent in terms of the geographic area that it covers. Because let's face it, Africa does not have a monopoly when it comes to things like war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide. The world is full of such examples. And yet here, because the International Criminal Court has chosen to go after these small, poor nations while ignoring the sort of military campaigns and the counterinsurgency campaigns of larger superpowers, many people have grown disillusioned with it, even in the short time that it's already been there. And many people say that it's too late for the International Criminal Court to turn around and to regain its credibility. Because if you think about it, the International Criminal Court is not set up to be a body that can take on the superpowers. It's not structured that way. The world order is not structured that way. The only countries that the International Criminal Court even has the power to go against would be the small nations that do not have geopolitical allies. Because if these small nations did have geopolitically powerful allies, particularly one of the 5 permanent members in the UN Security Council, they would just veto any resolution that comes up, and the United Nations would be unable to do anything about it. And therefore, whatever findings the International Criminal Court has and whatever judgment the International Criminal Court delivers, without the backing of the United Nations, there would be no way to facilitate that unless you are already dealing with somebody who is out of power, and perhaps the new government is helping you with these investigations or something like that. So this brings us to the larger question of, can an international criminal court work? When we look at the mess that the present court is in, and when we look at all the criticisms, the valid criticisms that are being leveled against the court now, it does tempt one to consider the possibility of us having been wrong all along. What if we were wrong that we needed some international criminal court? What if we were wrong that this was simply arrogance on our part to assume that we could just create an unbiased, objective international criminal court? We should have known that it would have been used for geopolitical purposes. We should have known that it would simply become an institution that bangs on smaller states while larger states get away with atrocities on, you could argue, on an even more mass scale. And to be honest, it does give one sort of pause when we look at the rationale itself for international humanitarian law and for accountability law in general. So tell me what you guys think. Do you feel that the International Criminal Court is a concept that we can make work and that it's just the present system that's broken? Or do you feel that the concept itself of there being some kind of court with the power to mediate and judge over armed conflicts in various countries, do you think that the concept itself is flawed? If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Thank you, and see you guys next time.